were able to characterize exactly what the problem was.
You looked to the doctors and even they had no idea what was going on.
When it progressed and they weren't able to identify a problem, then it became scarier.
I wanted them to come back and say, yes, this is what you have. But they didn't. It kept being negative, negative, negative.
She just looked at me and she said, am I going to die?
I was at a desperation point. I thought I was finished. And I needed to find out what the problem was before I was gone.
Welcome to The Incurables. I'm Don Wildman. Athletes have always been admired for their strength and endurance. So it's perplexing when an individual who has dedicated their life to becoming an elite competitor has their body suddenly break down. More disconcerting when there's no apparent cause and modern medicine has no explanation to offer. Marcia Yeager, a gifted athlete who became a Hall of Fame skater, faced just such a situation, a condition indefinable and undetectable. As her body rapidly deteriorated, Marcia struggled to make sense of the illness that was threatening to take away everything.
I was taking a spinning class. All of a sudden, I'm reaching my maximum heart rate, and all of a sudden, I get this, it's like a chill that comes up through my body, and it made me like stop. I needed to bring my heart rate down and recover. It was the strangest feeling I had had. It was just a very strange sensation. I noticed a change in my feet, very, very cold. My hands became very, very cold, and I had not experienced that at all. That was the first sign of something, but I didn't know what it was, and because I'm a competitor, oh well, it'll go away. I'll just run through this. The next day, I noticed it again. And then I noticed that I had a difficult time breathing. As soon as I finished spinning, I had to run to the locker room, get rid of my wet clothes, and put on something dry. So then I realized that, gosh, something just doesn't seem right. You know, this isn't me.
Marcia's first instinct was to push past her pain, but that soon proved impossible.
New Year's Day, I was supposed to go to a party. Huge party, never miss it, and I could hardly walk because I had had these ulcer-like lesions begin to show up on my toes. And I just began to rub my feet to try to, I guess, get the circulation in it. And then by rubbing it, that made it a lot better, and the burning kind of went away. And I was like, what is going on? What is this?
Marcia grew up in Cincinnati. As an active girl, she would run from dawn till dusk. With two older brothers, she quickly learned how to compete.
Growing up as a kid, she was great at sports. We could be picking teams, and it'd be 15 guys in Marcia, and Marcia would be like the second one picked on the team, you know, over 14 other guys. Very athletic, got the biggest heart in the world.
Marcia's childhood, however, was sometimes painful.
My mother was a practicing alcoholic, and when my father died when I was 12, her alcoholism really, really took off. And I believe the roller rink was a haven for her to take me where she knew I would be safe, and she could go off and do her thing. I lived inside a skating rink for the next 10 years. My skating coach basically took my father's place. I competed, and I became really, really well known. I wanted to win in the worst way because I knew that if I could win, I would get more recognition, which meant more love.
Marcia quickly blossomed into one of America's greatest skaters. She won 14 national roller speed skating titles. She represented the U.S. at the World Championships held in Argentina. And in 1989, she was inducted into the Roller Skating Hall of Fame. In the years since, Marcia has stayed active, skating 86-mile marathons, competing in the X Games, and working as a fitness instructor, helping others get physically fit.
I did get into physical fitness. There's a reason why I did that. My father died of cancer, and my mother died of cancer, and my sister died of cancer, and my cousin died of cancer. And so after my mother passed away, I decided that I was going to make everything in my life devoted to health and physical fitness. And I really, really wanted to help people get fit. That is just me, that's my life, that's energy, that's just everything I am today.
Marcia Yeager is a little ball of fire. If you've experienced Marcia, you've experienced life. She is crazy and funny and serious and able to motivate people to do amazing things.
She's just a very unique type of person, someone that you will run across once in your lifetime, and she's unforgettable.
For Marcia's students, it was hard to imagine the woman they saw as a pillar of strength could be completely debilitated.
I remember I had a class. It was a 6 a.m. class. I could hardly walk. And I'm around and I'm instructing. And I have a couple doctors and nurses in there, and after class I said, hey you guys, what do you think about this? And as soon as I showed them my toes, they said, oh my gosh, you have got to go see Mindy immediately.
Mindy Hasty had been Marcia's physician for years. The women had developed a bond.
Marcia came to see me first in March of '03 and was complaining primarily of pain and swelling and discoloration in her feet. She's a very active person, she's an athlete, and so this was very concerning to both her and me. Once I examined her, I was very concerned. She had definite discoloration, blackening in different areas in her toes, and we were definitely concerned that she could have an auto amputation where the blood supply is lost and the appendage just falls off.
I came into the hospital and I couldn't believe what I saw. I mean, this woman who is a pillar of strength, who led me to feeling confident about myself when I walk into a room to work out. And then I walk in and she looks like she's dead. She's laying in bed. And I had to take a deep breath because I didn't want her to see my expression. And she just looked at me and she said, Sarki, am I gonna die?
You walk in and you try not to have that look on your face. You try to be the same person that they're used to seeing, so you don't want to spread the fear or, you know, try to give them a little something to hang on to, like it'll be okay, and I'm still going to make fun of you with tubes in your arms. But at that point, I thought she was going to get the help she needed early on. So when it progressed and they weren't able to identify a problem, then it became scarier.
They tested me for every autoimmune disorder imaginable. They even asked if I went out of the country, if I ate something odd, if I was around someone that was out of the country. They tested me for Parkinson's, multiple sclerosis, lupus, leukemia, you name it. I had every one of those autoimmune diseases that they were trying to test me for, and they ruled out everything. It came back negative, and that's why they were so stumped. Because what they said to me when I was laying there is, Marcia, your symptoms look like you weigh over 300 pounds and you're a heavy smoker. And I said, well, you can look at me and see that that's not the case. And I said, there is something wrong with me. I don't know, but it feels like I'm dying inside. And that was the best way that I could describe it.
They did a whole span of autoimmune studies and immunoglobulin studies and all kinds of fancy hematological things. Really didn't come up with anything. And I think that the doctors were frustrated.
Each evening you would come in and say, did they find anything? You know, what's going on? You know, there was always someone there to draw blood, and it just seemed like that was a constant. Here's someone else to poke and take a little piece of her away with each visit into the room.
Each test that they took came back negative. I mean, they could not find what was the matter with her. They had all kinds of specialists in there. I know at one point, maybe on a Tuesday, there was like 5 doctors in the room. And I was in there with her, and they were just like all just looking at her toes. And, you know, we're all looking at them like, you know, what is going on? Can you help, you know, help her? There's something going on here.
I just can't imagine with all of the technology that we have that, you know, they can't identify an illness. And here you have this healthy person who's coming in pretty strong and should be able to fight off anything that's thrown at her. You would hope that they would be able to work in that situation, identify something, because to me it would just have to shout out at you, because what could be wrong with her?
I just thought to myself, this is crazy. You know, with the modern medicine today, we have the technology today. This looks like a pretty simple case, you know, but I'm not a doctor. And I mean, all these big shots just couldn't come up with anything.
The last day, that when the doctor came in and said, Marcia, you can leave now, I'm going to have to dismiss you because we can't find anything. Everything's come back negative. And I said, that's impossible. And I lost about 9 pounds of muscle. I got down to 116 pounds. I was lifeless, I was helpless, and I didn't know what I was going to do next. My rheumatoid arthritis doctor said, Marcia, I don't know what we can do. He said, you're the 1% that we can't find. We're going to have to let it rear its ugly head again. And I said, you mean this could come back? And he said, it's a possibility. And I remember I called Colleen Kelly, and she came to pick me up and take me home. And I left in tears.
And I can remember picking her up at the hospital and saying, well, what did they find out? And she said, still nothing. They can't figure out what's going on with me. They don't know. They don't know. I can just remember her kind of repeating that. They don't know.
The glow was gone inside of me, and it wasn't the Marcia Yeager that I know, who's just full of energy and full of life, and that's what scared me to death. And I was desperate. And someone as strong as I was, and as great, healthy condition I was in, to all of a sudden just be laid out, I didn't know what I was going to do, but I had to find an answer.
Marcia Yeager's life had been turned upside down. This once vibrant, world-class athlete was blindsided by a condition that doctors could not fully explain. Tests revealed she had protein S deficiency, a rare condition that can cause clotting abnormalities. As a precaution against life-threatening blood clots, Marcia's doctors felt she should be on an anticoagulant drug for the rest of her life.
When I got out of the hospital, they said I definitely needed to be on a blood thinner. And so they recommended that I was on Coumadin, and that I should probably be on this the rest of my life. And the doctor said, I really don't want you rollerblading or go biking or any of those things because you could bleed to death if you fall. And I was just like, there's no way.
Once the diagnosis of the protein S deficiency was made and we had to discuss long-term Coumadin therapy, that's when her hesitation really came in. And her hesitation was that she is an athlete. If she's going to be rollerblading and she falls and hits her head and she's anticoagulated, that's a huge risk.
She was really worried about taking that because she's very active and she's kind of clumsy too, you know, and afraid maybe she would fall and, you know, bleed to death.
When I got out of the hospital and my symptoms kind of progressively got worse, except for my toes had healed, so I was able to walk. But my joints and the swelling and my hair going limp and me losing all this weight, I was lifeless. I just didn't have any desire to be around anyone, and I just wanted to be at home. I remember writing in my journal, as I went to pick up the pen, the pain was so great in my joints, I had to put the pen back down. I had never experienced any kind of pain like that, and I was saying to myself, how am I going to get through this? There has to be an answer somewhere. I think that somebody just hasn't been able to come up with the right one yet, because I just believe that there was an answer somewhere and that I was going to find it if they couldn't.
Marcia learned of the pioneering work being done to find the nutritional causes of diseases using advanced blood tests by Ellie Cullen and her firm Your Future Health.
Marcia's doctors told her that her symptoms defied diagnosis, and she decided that she was going to give us a call and see if nutritional deficiencies might be at the root cause of her problems.
The testing kit from Your Future Health came by mail. At a nearby lab, Marcia had her blood drawn.
Ellie Cullen calls me, gives me my blood results, tells me everything, and she said, Marcia, I don't know what you have, I don't know how you got it, I don't know what caused it, but I can tell you one thing. She said, you are omega-3 deficient, and she said, your glucose scores are way out of whack. She said, if you do what I suggest, I promise you, you will feel better. She said, change your diet in these ways. Don't eat chicken, don't eat corn, don't eat tomatoes. Get rid of all the bread. You need to be wheat and gluten-free. And you need to take mega doses of fish oil.
Taking fish oil became the key to Marcia's recovery. The analysis of her blood work showed she was extremely deficient in omega-3s and that she had B-pattern cholesterol, which increases plaque buildup and clots in her blood vessels. Taking fish oil can reverse the effects of these circulatory impairments.
When you have a B cholesterol pattern, what that means is that cholesterol is sticking 100% of the time to the inside of your blood vessel wall, and it will eventually impede circulation. The blood simply can't flow past the plaque, which is a rough, sticky surface, and it also forms clots because that sticky surface allows the blood cells to collect there and form a clot. Fish oil actually makes that inside surface so slippery that the blood cannot stick to it any longer and the clots no longer form.
It was approximately 15, 20 days, and I was like back to life.
Marcia's symptoms started going away. She started getting more energy back. She started teaching, her spinning classes began, and she started giving me a hard time. You know, when she doesn't give me a hard time, you know, something's wrong.
Marcia called me one day, just 2 weeks into the program, and said, I can see that this is working, and thank you. That was very gratifying for me to have someone who was as sick as Marcia was know that she was getting better. She could feel it. She knew she was getting better, and she stuck with it. And by the end of 6 weeks, she was really better, and by the end of 3 months, she was on top of her game again.
And my hands weren't numb, and they weren't swollen, and they weren't red, and my joints weren't, you know, on fire. I just said, my gosh, how simple is this?
Today, Marcia Yeager is definitely back in full form. Her crushing illness has deepened her appreciation of well-being.
You can have all the materialistic things, you can have the greatest home, you can have the greatest business, but none of it has any meaning, none, unless you have your health. And how do you know how you're doing if you don't know what's going on inside? I check in constantly with myself. How are you doing? How are you feeling? You know, have you made, what kind of changes are going on with you? Yes, you're getting more wrinkles. Yes, you're getting some gray, but that's not it. What's going on inside? How do you feel? How are you breathing? And so I constantly check in with myself and do the blood prints, which really, really have helped me tremendously.
I think Marcia's cured if she keeps doing what she's been doing for the past couple years. I mean, she hasn't had any symptoms. Apparently, the blood work that they're doing on her, she keeps a tap on that, and she's in contact with Ellie, and she keeps taking her fish oil, and you know, I think she's going to live a long, long time.
I think what got Marcia through this was Marcia. Her outlook on life, her thinking outside the box, her never giving up, the fight that's in her all the time. If you can't find a cure for me, I'll go find my own.
The best thing and the most endearing thing about Marcia to me is that she did exactly what we recommended. And the results speak for themselves.
I believe that God gave me a gift to reach out and touch people and to help their lives become better. And today I'm just sending a message. That's what I'm doing today.
Had Marcia Yeager spent her life on blood thinners, coaching roller derby would have been unthinkable. But in her latest sporting adventure, Marcia has taken on the task of coaching for a new league, with all its bruising action. Marcia has never been one to make compromises in life, and it's just that unbreakable spirit which has made her a champion.
The irony of her situation has not been lost on Marcia. It's almost inconceivable that a woman who's dedicated her life to health and fitness could be stricken with a crippling disorder, usually reserved for those living a sedentary lifestyle. Most would have given up, but not Marcia Yeager. With relentless determination, she took it upon herself to find the answers that would allow for her stunning comeback. Today, Marcia continues her athletic pursuits while training and inspiring others to reach beyond themselves and achieve their true potential.